Nicole. Let's talk about it. Tell me all about it. I'm here. I wanna know what's on your mind. Ooh, the world needs to hear from you, and I'm so glad to have a conversation to reach the nation. And it's all about you. We'll help each other to discover innovative ways to positively change the world. Let's talk about let's talk about let's talk about conversations with Nicole.
Greetings. Welcome to Conversations with Nicole. I am Nicole Everett, your host. And Conversations with Nicole is a talk show based in Tallahassee, Florida, focused on connecting the community through conversations. And today is what I call Wellness Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, me, and my guests to chat about something interesting and intriguing. And tonight, our topic is being present and absent at the same time. Being present and absent at the same time. And my very special guest is Mr. Ron Sanders, who is a clinician from Tallahassee, but based in Atlanta, Georgia. And so I am super excited and delighted to have him with me tonight. But before I bring him on, I need to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? We are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on LinkedIn. But this is an interactive live. Your comments, your questions are very much so welcome. So tag a friend, like, tag, share, let them know they need to be on here. The premise of our conversation is really kind of around fatherlessness. Ron and I talked about what it looked like, excuse me, to be both present and absent at the same time. So this is going to be a great conversation. I kind of wished I might have saved this for June, for Father's Day, for Men's Month, but I think this is a good kind of precursor to that. So I see a few of you on, but not commenting, but that's okay. We're going to roll right on. Y'all know how I do. So I'm going to go ahead and share some of his bio, and we'll get the rest of y'all later on. So Ron Sanders has served in the mental health and counseling field for more than 15 years. He began working with children at parks and rec centers in his hometown of Tallahassee. While in college, he assisted children with learning disabilities through after-school programs. His expertise also includes working with depression, trauma, anxiety, and couples. He has provided in-home counseling to adults and children. He has also worked with the Department of Children and Family Services to reunite families. He's the founder of Therapy for Kings and Perseverance Counseling, LLC. He received his BA degree in criminal justice and MS degree in political science from the Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University. Go Rattlers. He also received an MA degree in rehabilitation counseling from Georgia State University and is also a certified professional counselor supervisor in the state of Georgia and is trained in EMDR, also known as eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And he believes that stability begins with inner peace. I believe that too. Y'all help me welcome Mr. Ron Sanders.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sometimes, but the way you talking about me.
Yes, I was talking about you, brother. Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the introduction. I appreciate you for taking time and giving me an opportunity to be on your show tonight.
Absolutely. No, my pleasure. My absolute pleasure. So tell the people, who is Ron Sanders? Not what you do, but who are you in your own words?
I'm a very private person, to myself individual. I appreciate my friends. I appreciate my alone time. As an individual, some of my interests are reading, going to different book clubs, coffee shops. I enjoy travel. I'm a married man. I have a stepdaughter. So pretty much who I am as a person, just real chill and calm. As a therapist, a lot of people think we like to talk and be on the scene, but a lot of us are very introverted. And I'm pretty much the same. I would consider myself developing more into an ambivert as I've gotten older, but I'm still very introverted in my character and my personality. So just
Nice.
real chill brother. So
Okay, wonderful. Well, again, really glad that you're here and looking forward to this conversation. Why don't you tell us just a little bit kind of how you got into counseling? I read your bio in terms of kind of your history, but what kind of prompted you to like go down this counseling pathway?
well, I think counseling more so called me than I went to search for it because actually, Nicole, I was headed to law school. I was on that route, so that's
Okay.
why you see the criminal justice, political science. But there was a turn in my life, so I didn't go that route, and I
Mm,
found myself working with individuals who had emotional trauma, looking
mm,
at family. A lot of it came from things that I experienced in my family, whether it was
mm.
absence, communication problems, and trauma that I saw in my family. And,
Yeah.
by the grace of God, I was guided in that area. It's not something that I saw like when people are 18 years, like, I know I want to do this.
Right.
Unfortunately, it wasn't like that. And maybe fortunately, it was like that, that I
Yeah.
was guided into the space. I didn't necessarily go looking. I knew exactly what I wanted to do.
I
So,
got you.
God brought the people into my life and he allowed me to serve them and allows me to continue to serve them. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So, again, I know I mentioned in the bio a little bit about your practice, but tell us, I guess, specifically about like Therapy for Kings, like who you serve and, if you are accepting new clients and kind of what you do with that.
okay, so Therapy for Kings is an agency primarily working with men, mainly men of color, to help them process the trauma, anxiety, and things that they're experiencing in their life. So with that, we kind of go down your childhood because everything starts from experiences a lot of times that we experience in our life. And we kind of work with them to undo some of the trauma and anxiety and some of the things that are causing uproar in their life. So I work with them on an individual basis, create a tailored plan based on their specific needs, and then we go from there to navigate them to a destination of emotional success.
Nice, nice, nice. All right, very good. Well, we're gonna move right along and get ready to dive into this topic. Let me see. Where is my topic? Where is my topic? Here we go. Being present and absent at the same time. We do have some folks that have joined us, so I want to acknowledge them. Miss Tracy Golay here in Tallahassee. Thank you for joining us. Cherise Du Bois in Atlanta. Thank you for being here. Sonya B, your ears must have been ringing because me and Ron was just talking about you backstage, ma'am. Intimacy coach and certified sexologist here in Tallahassee. And listen, y'all, we got Poom Poom Party 3.0 coming up on April 27th. So, ladies in Tallahassee, mark your calendar. All right, Donda here in Tallahassee, thank you for being here. My mom down in Miami, thank you for joining us, Ma. Love you. All right, so Ron, one of the things that I do is I have a disclaimer that I read when I have counselors on. So,
Mhm.
because I don't want anybody to confuse this conversation for counseling. All right.
Right.
All topics, past, present, and future, on Conversations with Nicole are for informational purposes only. They are not to be used as a diagnosis for treatment or an answer to any personal issues related to the topic being discussed before, during, or after the program. All right. So, yeah, Sonya said her ears were ringing. All right, so let's dive in. So you and I kind of talked about some of the issues that, in particular, we were talking about like what men are facing, right?
Mhm.
But being present and absent at the same time, our conversation was around kind of fatherlessness, right?
Mhm. Yes.
And fatherlessness, or as I like to also call it, father hunger, can be a father that is physically unavailable,
Mhm.
right? Then they're
Yes.
in the household, but it also can be that they are present, they are physically present, but emotionally absent.
Right. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm,
So, and I'm glad you started touching on this early. So, it, one of the things is being able to work with a variety of families. You see a lot of different things.
mhm,
I know some individuals, or I've worked with some individuals who never met their father in the physical sense,
mhm,
and I also work with some individuals who live every day with their father until they graduate high school, but they never know their father.
Mm.
So when I talked about, and I know we briefly touched on this, but
Mm-hmm.
physical presence and emotional absence.
Mm-hmm.
So um, working with men, I've noticed that a lot of them may live in a home with there and they feel like, hey, I take care, I provide, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
But even in with kids, I know who their parents are millionaires and they're doing very well. They sometimes can suffer the most emotional neglect because I got you everything, but I didn't give you everything. Meaning,
Mm.
I got you all the possessions that you needed in life, but
Ooh.
the wellness that you needed, I neglected that because that's not something that normally they were trained or something they didn't receive, so they didn't know how to give it. So
Mm-hmm.
when we talk about physical presence and emotional absence, these are some of the things that I see a lot where you're just walking strangers in the house, but you're family. So you never get to know each other on that level. Like, who was your dad? How was his upbringing? How's his day? What affects him? How does it affect you? Or how does it affect his ability to parent you or for you to develop a relationship? I know a lot of these things aren't discussed. So you live with the person, but you never know them.
That is very powerful and very I think it happens very often. So I'm a pull our viewers in. I want to know if you all don't mind sharing, again, safe space, no judgment. This is a place for us to engage with one another. If that has been your experience where you have, or someone, all right, I'm not going to just limit it to that. If it's not been your experience, maybe someone who their father has been physically present but emotionally absent. Physically present but emotionally absent. And I'm hoping, Ron, that through this conversation we can kind of unpack that, like why the thought of just being a provider or a protector, why men think that that's enough.
Mhm. Yeah.
Hmm.
A lot of things that I always say, a lot of us were taught wrong. We learned the wrong things. Even though the intentions were well, but we learned the wrong things.
Hmm.
I think that narrative that was put in our heads only, as long as you protect and provide for your family, you've done all you need to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's why growing up, I've seen family members. They even okay. We're even related to couples, Nicole.
Okay.
I always wonder with some of my family members, I would see them be married. They were married for 35 years, but they slept in separate rooms. So it's like, how do you all build that connection? Is this normal? So when I saw things growing up, I was like, I don't want this to be my normal. I don't want to pass this on to the next generation. I
Mm.
didn't know why, but I didn't know it didn't feel right. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and when it came to like family and fathers being around, I would see kids pretty much be around their fathers a lot, but
Mm-hmm.
you'd be in the car with your dad or with your uncle, and it's a silent ride. And
Mm-hmm.
something happens, and they ask you like, "Did you know this was going on?" Like, no, I really don't know him. I really don't know anything about him. He's my father in name and in being in the home, but him as a father connecting with me, we never had that.
So, and I receive what you're saying in terms of being taught wrong. So, and I get it. It was a different day, different time. Maybe, and I'm gonna speak as it relates to Black men in America, right? Perhaps if there were vulnerabilities that would be considered weakness and could potentially maybe be life threatening,
Mm,
right? And so I think as the society has maybe, um, I'm gonna say softened, just for lack of a better word, we find that maybe there's a need for, um, I'm trying to figure out how to say this. With the changing of our society, we're finding there's a need for men, and particularly fathers, to be more present emotionally,
mm,
right?
right, right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that's, we have to actually go learn it for ourselves to give it to our kids.
Mm,
So I think sometimes we're paralyzed by the work we have to do, that
mm,
we're afraid to dive deep into ourselves to understand like why or what we may uncover that may change the trajectory of our life. So if we're gonna say like things are fine the way they are
mhm,
because we don't want to do the change or we don't want to do the work, what are we passing on? Because we die young from whether it's food, stress, and things of that nature. But
mm,
if we take the time to undo some of the things, or do the self work, like what greater advantages can we pass on to the next generation? And I think a lot of us, we just don't want to do the inner work because we know pain comes with that. We know suffering comes with that.
mhm,
And it's easy to be complacent, even in an uncomfortable space, than do the change that's necessary to grow. So
mm,
a lot of us as men stay in that place that we know needs to be changed for us and the next generation because it's on I mean it's what we know, even though we know it's not growth, and the changes will be such an obstacle, so we don't do it, even though we know it'll help the next generation.
So it's heart-wrenching work, is essentially what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, it is. Mm.
But is it not worth it?
It is. It's very worth it. It's very worth it. But I think, from my experience, is this we get caught up in life of just running and taking
Protecting
care of,
and protecting and providing.
yeah, protecting and providing, worrying about the company, the new pregnancy, where's my job? So when we ask and we talk about taking time to work on ourselves and be present for our kids, our first thing is we're going to provide. So we may not necessarily think about the emotion component of it, but
Mhm,
yeah, to answer your question, it's very worth it. I want to share something real quick. I remember last year sometimes, I think I made a post about this.
mhm,
My uncle, he's been in my life all my life, and he's like 60 something now, but we never told each other we love each other.
mm,
And that was kind of odd for me. I was like, this man, he's been around, and if I call him right now, he'll show up for me.
mhm,
And the response I got when I said, hey, Uncle, I love you, he didn't say anything. He went silent. But I
mm,
know, like I felt it in my spirit. I know it's always been present.
mhm, mhm.
So it was uncomfortable because he never heard it. And he's in his 60s. He never heard it from another man.
Wow.
The next time we were talking, I I said, hey, I love you. He said, I love you back. So sometimes we got to teach
Oh,
the things that we're learning as a younger generation. So
that's good.
it's yeah, so it's uncomfortable because he never received it, so he didn't know how to give it, even though he know it was there.
Mhm. No,
So
that's good. That's good. That's good. So we got a few comments. We got Iris who's checking in from Tallahassee. Thank you for being here, Iris. Sonya said a lot of people don't realize it's necessary and don't know how much it will be worth it.
yes, I
Mhm.
agree. I agree.
Yes.
Um, Luckily, we have, and Tony, we have so many different outlets that's come about up here where we have men that come together. I'm part of an organization called Cure Pride that one of my friends started, where we come together as men every 3 months to discuss our emotions. And
Mm,
sometimes when you have that safety net and you see a group of individuals around you to let you know that it's worth it because we're all going through similar things, but we're not talking about it.
mm.
That's how you kind of find your work. It's easier to do the work when you know you have a community of people that's working with you.
Absolutely. I just recently in February was part of a group that so the Mental Health Council of the Big Bend hosts a Black men's mental health event in February. We just did it and we had about 50 men that showed up. And this year we decided to do breakout sessions. So one session was man up but heal first, and the other session was let's talk brother. And they had an hour, like a solid hour in these breakout sessions, and did not want to leave.
Hmm.
They did not want to leave. We had two clinicians, two Black male clinicians in each session, and one of the clinicians came out and was like, "I can't get them to talk this much in these sessions," and they was talking a lot in the in these groups because it was that camaraderie. It was that I'm not alone. There are other men going through this same thing that caused them to be vulnerable and open up and share and not want to leave the room. So, I'm glad to hear that you said you're part of this type of organization because I think it's so important.
Yeah, it's very important. You have men from all different backgrounds that come together.
Mm.
I hope they start something similar in Tallahassee because I have a lot of friends and things there. I know it could help them as well.
So there is a group that comes
Okay.
uh-huh, the Tallahassee Trainers, which is really a group of both male and female trainers that come together. But some of the men from Tallahassee Trainers do quarterly events with men here, usually on a Saturday morning at one of the local spaces. So, yeah, they are kind of consistently doing that, and I hope that continues as well.
Right.
Mm,
Yeah, I definitely hope so too. But
yeah.
sometimes you have to, and I'm glad you mentioned that, Nicole, about coming together in groups because it's like once you see one person start something or you see one person gets going, it doesn't make it such a hurdle or obstacle for you.
Yes,
With
exactly.
whether you see somebody start a business or completing school, we were able to do that because we saw someone else do it. And it's the same thing for me in the sense of being emotionally expressive and taking time to really learn your emotions and to study yourself.
Yeah.
So once you go through through the work, it
Mm,
makes it easy for you to express the work and pass it on to.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So, Donda said, I think part of the need to go dive into the knowledge of ourselves is because not the knowledge for ourselves is because we're not allowed to know about problems in the home.
right. And she's saying it from a sense like our parents didn't let us know about what was going on. Well, okay, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, I can see that being the case. Well, I've
Mm,
noticed that being the case too, that we don't know what our parents were going through growing up. They never really talk, and they'll just say it's gonna be all right or we'll figure it out, but we never really know what the problem is.
right.
Um, unfortunately, sometimes in our family, whether it's health or whatever, you don't really even know till somebody passes away or somebody gets
Mhm.
sick with what's going on. So if we don't kind of talk about those things, we definitely not going to oftentimes talk about the trauma that we suffered. But when
Exactly.
you hear when your grandfather or an older person in your family finally tell you all the things, it makes you more understandable,
Hmm.
makes you
More
understand them better.
understanding about what took place. Yeah.
How they respond or why they angry or why they may respond the way they do to certain things. Not saying it makes it okay or it pacifies anything, but understanding and clarity allows you to give more grace to a person, in my opinion.
Agreed, agreed, agreed. So Sonia said, my late husband and I led healing workshops for men and women, and often had safe spaces for people to be vulnerable and express. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Again, think it's important. I was telling you, Ron, that Sonya and I did like 8 events last year, and there was a lot of vulnerability. And these events were just for women, but there were, several moments within that space where there was this healing that took place because a woman was vulnerable about something that happened to her, an adverse childhood experience or something. And it was like a light bulb went off relative to that thing from the past that's impacting them now, and that they didn't even realize that it was still an issue.
right. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. And I'm thinking about all the things that the individuals I work with have to unlearn. Like for me, like recently getting married over the last year,
Okay.
um, it's been a big change.
I
So
bet.
being introverted and being to yourself like that
Mhm.
don't work. You can't work. That doesn't work at all. So a lot of times I'm looking at myself and I want to give my wife, which I have to dig emotionally for myself, which the things
Mhm.
I wanted my grandmother to have, the things I wanted my mom to have.
Mm.
So I have to dig emotionally to make sure that I'm available for her, so I can make sure I feel like I'm still in some strange way I'm serving the parts of my grandmother them that they didn't get by serving my
Mm.
wife.
Oh,
So
wow.
when I started thinking, if I'm doing the work from here, how much better my grandmother would have been, or how much better my mom would be if she had men in their life that would take time to kind of understand what's going on in them and be able to communicate their emotions to them in their relationships.
That's
So,
powerful.
so it's like I'm trying to serve my past and my future at the same time, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Did y'all hear that? I don't know if y'all felt all of what he just put down right there. Let me know. Give me a thumbs up, a church finger, something. Let me know. The brother said he is serving his past and his future at the same time because he's, being almost probably like a father in some regards to your wife, right? And to, your mom, your grandma, or her mom, her grandma, like, man, people, listen, father hunger, fatherlessness. I actually did a talk about it, just to kind of lead up to this conversation that we're having today on a radio show. I'm on the Michael Court Morning Show on Mondays at 8:45, and I did a segment on fatherlessness. But it was saying that father hunger is like in the millions. Like they call it father wound. That's the terminology they use. But they was like, if it was a disease, it would be at epidemic proportions. Okay, epidemic proportions. And people just the absence of fathers has been so normalized,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, a lot
Such
in our
that
communities.
Yeah, such that we don't even realize we have a father hunger. Right? I mean, there's certain things I think that we are doing something, certain behaviors that we are exhibiting. But if we had that in our, if we had, if not our father, a surrogate, it would be different for us.
Mhm.
you know? So I tell brothers all the time, y'all matter. We need y'all. We really do. I have talked to um, some elder men who have raised their own children and have talked about how young people, and particularly college students, have been drawn to them, wanting to tell them their business, wanting to tell them about the things going on in their lives because they gave them sound advice, sound guidance. And they also kind of express kind of how exhausting it was for them because they like, I done raised my own children. Why these people coming up to me telling me, about their business? But because you are like a father to them. And
Yeah,
so again, we need y'all, and you play an important role in the lives of not only men, boys, and men, but girls and women. You absolutely do. So we need y'all to be present, both physically and emotionally.
yeah, yeah. And I was telling you about the other agency that I have, Perseverance Counseling. It's it's a weird complex because majority of my clients are women with Perseverance Counseling,
Mhm.
and the majority of my clients are men with therapy for kings, of course. And when you work with some of these young ladies and you kind of you see like what it would be to how their life trajectory would change just having a male presence in their life.
Mhm.
Just their relationships and the things that I get privy to hear
Yeah.
about how they feel about men and some of the other things I get to hear about, like how they cry at night because their dad is not around or because they don't have that
Mhm.
guidance in their life. And when you see it at 9 and 10 and you start thinking like, how could you leave your daughter? But I don't know what anybody else goes through. Everybody's dynamics is different. But when you see a little girl comes in your office and they just yearning the presence of their father. And not
Mhm.
that he has to be the great, most amazing dad, but
Right.
just the presence of him being around, a call, a text. I've
Mhm.
seen countless young girls just cry because Mr. Brown I texted me. I ain't heard back from him, and that's been several months ago. He didn't call me on my birthday. And then you start thinking about these young ladies that I see them sometimes later in adult life, and some of them that luckily they're able to attach to someone, a positive male figure, but unfortunately, the majority of them don't. And you start seeing how that void in their life affected how they navigated through life.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why when I'm talking with the men, especially the young men that are fathers, like just make sure you call, you check. She don't need what you think you need. You may not be able to provide her everything financially, but that call is worth $1 million to her sometimes.
Yeah. No, you have said a whole lot there. You have really said a whole lot there. We are about halfway through our conversation. So for those of you who are just joining me, I am on with Mr. Ron Sanders, and we are talking about being present and absent at the same time. The focus of our conversation is around fathers in particular who are present physically but emotionally absent. So please chime in, like, comment, share. This is a great conversation. So we got quite a few folks who are commenting. Ish, who is my FAMU freshman brother, he said, "Great process to take, brother. Thank you for being here, Ish." Sonya said that was so powerful. Said we are able to heal across time and space. Yes. We got Brother Quasi on with us, who's in Atlanta. Thank you for being here. And Brother Warren Cave, who is here in Tallahassee. And Miss Potter, who is down in Miami. She's sorry a little late, but chiming in. Thank you for being here, Miss Potter. So Ish, he said, watching my mother's disappointment and heartache in men has richly blessed my wife. I determined she would never have that level of pain based upon my actions. That's great that you can learn in that way and take those lessons with you in your own relationship, in your own marriage. Ish. Thank you for sharing that. Donda, she said, I've always believed fathers validate their daughters. It makes a huge difference.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and thank you for the comments. I want to speak to something that brother Ishmael, am I saying his name
Yes,
right?
Ishmael. Mm-hmm.
So to his point, you know, a lot of us come from very turbulent backgrounds, and like I was saying earlier, you don't know how it impacts you, affect you. Like, but seeing certain women in my family get beat, like physically, not just verbal abuse, but
Yeah.
physically, it makes you very conscious of your whole interaction with your wife.
Yeah.
My wife will never tell you I yell at her or raise my voice or anything because, as I said before, seeing that, and I'm not like trying to pat myself on the back or anything
Yeah.
like that.
No, we get it.
Just seeing that and seeing how it affected my grandmother and the people that know the women in my life, it make you very conscious of how you interact, and you never want the woman in your life to feel like that again, especially the physical abuse.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And the mental more so. The physical, yeah, but the mental lasts a long time. After those bruises are healed, that pain
Mm-hmm.
is still inside.
Yeah.
So it makes you very conscious of how you interact and just making sure you can be present. Yeah, you're gonna make mistakes. You're not gonna be perfect, but also you'll be more attentive to ask questions about how to serve each other if you got a friend inside of your fiance or your wife too. So
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Coach Merv, he said, I'm sorry, not Coach Merv, Warren, he said, absenteeism is one of the greatest forms of long-term trauma that I've experienced, had to overcome, and now dealing with a 23-year-old daughter. Wow. Thank you for sharing that, Warren. Yeah. I think that it can be challenging, especially if the absenteeism was physical and you try to come back into the life of the child. Um, but again, I do believe that it's worth it. I think after maybe some hard lessons I learned and some knowledge of self, which Donda was talking about earlier, you can come to a place in a space where you can um, lay a foundation for a relationship, and hopefully it can grow.
yeah.
Mhm.
and there's still opportunity. I know sometimes we judge ourselves strictly based off the past, and
Yeah.
even men, we have a fear of being rejected a lot too. It's like, okay, what if
Mm,
I try to be there now and she doesn't want it? Like, how do
mm,
I deal with that emotionally?
yeah.
Or what if she says she doesn't want me in her life now? Like,
Mm,
all this is taking a chance of being emotionally vulnerable. But I'd rather take that chance of trying to be there than continue to be absent. And as you said, Nicole, we're not just talking about physical presence, we're talking
mm.
about the emotional presence.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, what, I guess, advice or recommendations or suggestions would you give to a father who has been um, present and absent in terms of making those efforts or steps to be both present and present?
Present. So for me, the most simplistic thing I always encourage individuals to do, fathers to do, let me be specific, is
Mhm,
try to, if you're physically present, try to take a ride with your daughter and sit down, maybe to your favorite restaurant, and
mm,
talk and say, like, is there anything you need from me? Is there anything that can improve our relationship?
okay.
Because instead of us guessing and wondering, hear
Mm,
from the source. Like,
mhm,
what do you need from me? Or what do
mhm,
you think improve? How do you feel like I've been as a father? And allow them to talk openly about
mhm,
what they feel without rejection. Because I was reading in this book, no, what do they call it? Nonviolent communication, about how we are quick to reject somebody's perception of something, and
mhm,
that doesn't allow them to open up anymore.
mhm,
So just listen to your daughter, your son, whomever it is, and ask them what they need, and always keep yourself open. Just because they may not can think of anything at that time, keep yourself open and say, like, hey, maybe 3 months later, I just want to get a pulse check. Like, is everything okay?
mhm.
I feel like there's more I can provide, but I want to know what it is that you need me to provide to you as a
Yeah.
father.
No, that's good. No, I'm a student of nonviolent communication as well. And so, yeah, we do make a lot of judgments, and rather than, you know, our own perceptions becoming our reality, check in, ask them, what do you need? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And, you know, don't take offense to whatever it is they say, right? Just
Yeah.
listen. Just
Mhm.
listen. Just listen. So we got Brother Malcolm who's joined us. Thank you for being here. And Vicky Williams says, speaking from what I've noticed, there's no soulful nor spiritual connection as long as he went to a sports event. Thought it was enough, not enough. Loneliness inside. Hmm. I feel like we need a little more. Speaking from what I've noticed, there's no soulful nor spiritual connection as long as he went to a sports event. Thought it was enough, not enough. Loneliness inside. So maybe Vicky, and if you feel comfortable sharing, maybe you're talking about going to a sporting event with your father. Give us a little more if you don't mind. Thank you for sharing, though. Warren, he said, from my experience, I believe healing can happen as you build the relationship, but you have to have painful conversations. Side note, but a negative minded and negative talking parent damages. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. You see it often. It's like the parent who a kid makes all A, but they point out the C. Like they're just so stuck on, yeah, like, you didn't do this right,
Right.
versus highlight some of the positives too. So some
Mhm.
of the negativity I see where a lot of kids, when it comes to their parents or where their fathers being just so quick to ridicule them, they shut down. They don't bring anything to them because they think they're going to be judged and ostracized for
Mm.
whatever it is they do. So I see that a lot too.
Yeah.
So you don't
Yeah.
want to be present in the way that you're condemning either. So
Mhm. Indeed. 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 All right. So, any other recommendations or suggestions as it relates to um, how they can be present and present?
and it sometimes if you're not ready to have a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get it to you later. But they have this like journaling app where you can like journal back and forth with each other. Yeah, to to have the conversation through journal until you can actually talk about it.
Okay. Do you know the name of it?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have it here, but I have to send it to you.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Nice.
yeah. So
Okay.
I think that's one way to definitely make sure that you start the communication. But
Mm,
the best thing, like I said earlier, is just kind of ask somebody what they need, whether it's
yeah.
relationship, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's your kids, but ask them what they need to be present. So
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Sonia said, Ron, that was the story of my life, all A's and one B, and I never heard the end of it about the B.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Unfortunately, this happen a lot with kids. Like I understand they want their kids to do better and excel, but at the same time, I just see the backlash that it does to some of the kids that I work with. It's like they just like I don't even want to tell you what I made, or I don't even want to share my grades with you anymore because you only focus on the negative. So
Yeah. So I want to dive a little deeper with this next thought or comment. I think oftentimes along the lines of the whole protector provider thing, that maybe fathers feel like they have to have this money. And sometimes children may, for whatever reason, right? I don't want to even get into why this happens, but are made to almost feel like, or made to make their fathers pay financially,
mm,
right?
mm,
As a result of not being absent. And that could be through outside influences that are sending that message to the child that you need to pay, or that they may even be trying to soothe whatever hurts, pains, disappointments, or what have you, with this money, if you will, right? This
mm,
payment. But it's not gonna do it, right? It's not gonna do it. No money is gonna solve this father hunger, this father wound, this fatherlessness that you have going on.
mm,
So if you don't mind sharing your thoughts around like fathers that may experience that, they feel like, they just want me for my money. They trying to take me for my paper. What was the song? I don't. Anyway, yeah,
Are you saying from the other parent? Or are you saying from the child?
from the child in particularly, and that could be from the mother or the caregiver of the, if they are the main caregiver of the child. Like they just want me for my money, not for who I am, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how do you work around that as a father? What would your thought or your recommendations be around working around that?
Okay. So normally, Nicole, when I heard men say that, it wasn't related to their children. It was always related to
Their
the
mother.
mom.
Mm,
So I never really heard them say that directly about their children. But if they were experiencing it, I always say like try to connect with the child personally to see what they need, because the child really don't really care that much about the money. They just want you to be physically present. But
mhm.
to point out what you said, I always hear the men say that from the mother, so I don't want to speak ill advised
Got you.
about.
I got
Yeah,
you.
so yeah, I never hear that they say
I
the kids like, I need money, money.
But it might be, the kid always, and I've heard, fathers talking about, they always asking me for money for this, that, or the other,
Mm,
and so I don't know if sometimes the kids, through the influence of others, are really able to even build that type of relationship. You know what I'm saying?
mm,
Because it's always about ask your daddy for the money, and I shouldn't say always, but oftentimes it is.
yeah. And
Mhm.
the father has the right to ask his opinion too. Like, hey, I noticed a lot of our conversation about finances. Like, do you want to talk about it, or do you feel like that's the only conversation that we can have is about money? Like, try to open yourself up to having a conversation with your daughter. If it's starting to make you feel, like I'm just a ATM machine that you don't want to really get to know me as a father. You just want monetary gain from our relationship. Try
Mm.
to open that discussion with your daughter, and so or your son to have that. Like, I want our relationship to be more than a monetary exchange. Let's talk about things. So
Right.
that way you're not necessarily um maybe seeing it in one perspective and the child may not mean it that way, but that's
Mhm.
where the conversation piece come in. So you can express yourself and they can express themselves about
Absolutely.
things. So
Absolutely. So Sonya, the lyricist, she got it from me. Yes, it was Biggie. The ninjas want to stick me for my paper. Yes, that one. All
okay.
right. Warren, he said one way I think is helping to have the person vent, curse, belittle you, empty, all hurt, and you listen. Don't respond in your feelings. Respond humbly with love. It may hurt, but healing will come. So I hope you understand what Warren is saying. He's like, saying so the child may be responding in that way because of the absenteeism, right? And so he's saying don't vent, don't respond in your feelings as it relates to them venting, belittling you, emptying all the hurt. Respond humbly and with love. Any thoughts about that?
Now I agree because the second you try to combat or defend yourself instead of like sitting with what the child say and you don't have to agree. You might have a total different perspective on it, but if you sit and the child feel heard and not rejected, I feel like you may be more open to get how they really feel or what's causing these emotions if
Mm,
you give a humble response. But if you're just quick to deny something, it's not you just denying their statement. They feel like you're denying their feelings again. Are
mm,
you
mm.
are you're trying to say they're wrong about how they feel? So I
Got
agree with sitting humbly.
mm,
Now I'm not gonna encourage anybody to be bashed every time they talk, but if this is your first exchange, it's been a while, or this is your first time addressing the topic, yeah, sit humbly and let them know, like, okay, well, I heard you out. I'm listening to what you say. Like, let's have a dialogue about how you actually feel now. So,
yeah. Okay. And then Warren said, Nicole, you're right. My daughter won't talk to me, won't answer my calls, but won't return the Zelle. I listened to her vent to me twice without interrupting, but hadn't talked to her in 9 months. Ooh, that's tough. I don't know.
oh yeah, I want to have a ever tried counseling together. He and his daughter, Mr. Warren.
Warren, have you and your daughter tried counseling? Let us know if you don't mind. Yeah, sometimes it can be tough to get the other party to go with you,
Yeah.
you know. So would family counseling be a recommendation?
Yeah, and then a lot of times with the person that let the kid or whomever choose the counselor for them, like, okay, this is the person I want to pick, so they won't seem like it's a bias there if
Mhm,
they make the choice themselves. So if
mhm.
they're open to going, because
Yeah.
initially they may not be, and then over some times things may change, especially
Mm,
with so many celebrities and people they see on TikTok getting counseling, they
mm,
may be more open to it later on if they reject it in the beginning.
gotcha. Okay. All right. So, some really sound advice in terms of some of the things that can be done to help fathers be present emotionally and present physically. So we talked about asking the child, "What do you need from me?" Maybe if you if it's difficult for you to talk face to face, journaling app that you mentioned, sitting with the negative expression, especially the first time around with the child, and responding humbly, and then family counseling. Those are some of the things that we've talked about thus far. So Warren says she lives in Tampa, been there since she was 9. I had her in summers and Christmas time, but I'll be open to therapy and counseling. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Definitely, if you're able to find someone in her state, well,
In her city.
yeah, her city. I'm sorry, and then kind of check with her. But I would definitely allow her to see if she's open to it, but to choose a person that she wants to choose.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you don't feel like you're adult trying to control the situation or being biased sometimes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So, what else are some maybe some things that you believe that fathers may be contending with that may cause them to uh, be absent, though while present.
Uh, I think a lot of it is just day-to-day things, whether it's work that could be consuming a lot of their time, bills and finances, a lot, that has a way and effect on all of us. And
Mm,
also just not knowing what to do a lot of times. I feel it's like,
mm,
how do I communicate with my kids, or how do I interact? Because a lot of things that we're doing, we're just repeating what we saw, or we're trying to navigate ourselves in a space that we didn't have guidance in.
mhm,
So I think that might be a way. It's not that they don't want to. Sometimes you just don't know how to, or you may feel like you're gonna do the wrong thing. So you
mhm,
stay silent, because if there's no silence, quote unquote, there's no chaos.
mm,
So you feel like things may be working out, everything fine. Nobody's arguing, fighting, no one in the house is yelling and fussing with each other, so everything is all right. So
mhm,
but working with kids, especially during the pandemic, and especially knowing when kids will isolate themselves in their room, there could be a lot of trouble brewing inside of their minds, because, as you said, the um, as we kind of know, like the suicide rate went up, or
mhm,
depression went up. But sometimes I think if we just would have checked with our kids, or like, how you doing? Is there anything you need? How some of these symptoms that we experienced during the pandemic and still today, like
mhm,
how they could subside just by having communication with each other. So,
mhm. Indeed. All right. Quasi said a curriculum should be developed specifically for African American parents and their children to enlighten both parties on behavior, expectations, history of parents, relationships before child, etc. So, Quasi, I tend to agree. I don't know if it's necessarily curriculum, but I just think in some regards, maybe some of the things that were established kind of, and I've just again heard or read these things before uh before we came to America, in terms of like rights programs, right? Rites of passage programs. Where there was just certain roles, certain responsibilities, certain expectations behaviorally, right? So maybe it does look like a curriculum nowadays, but I think that there were certain things that were intact on the continent that were being done, right? That we've kind of lost, or it's been kind of, you know, not practiced anymore amongst African Americans. So but I do like that idea. Warren, he said another thing is that generational lifestyle and normal way of living, and there seems to be a disconnect. But there are people like Sam Carter, Kevin Warren, Keyshawn Frazier, myself are trying. Absolutely. So all of the folks that he just named are part of those quarterly men's mental health sessions that I mentioned earlier. So yeah, generational lifestyle, normal way of living, absolutely. There can be a disconnect, but we have got to connect. We've got to. He said, by the way, I must say I always get something out of his teachings. Okay, good. Glad to hear that. So, what I also got from you is just you talked about work, you talked about bills, you talked about um not knowing, the not knowing piece, and when we talk about not knowing, is maybe not knowing what to do, right? I think as the man, the father, the husband is the head of the household, right? And sometimes the heaviness of the decisions is a quite a burden to bear. And maybe if you didn't have an example of what to do, or if the example that you had wasn't so great, or you don't have sound counsel that you can bounce things off of, right? A elder gentleman, a elder man who has been through some things, and can tell you some things, right?
yeah.
That can be troublesome as well. So mentorship, you would say, is also kind of important.
Yeah, very important if you have mentorship around. I think many of us wouldn't be where we are today if we haven't have some form of mentorship. So if you have somebody in your community that you feel is doing it a way that you want to do it, or somebody who can guide you, I would definitely reach out to mentorship, and that can come in many different forms. So.
Absolutely. All right. Vicky said, I believe the relationship between the parents also has an impact on the father's interaction or silence, or where he feels he holds no weight. I can agree with that. Yeah, the relationship between the parents has an impact on the father's interaction or silence, and where he feels he holds no weight. So, um, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Ron, but just based on a lot of the conversations that I have with men, most of them want peace. They just they they want peace, and a lot of times we women are not willing to grant that.
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts about that. I'm not gonna go into that because that really is a whole nother show. But we, they really do want peace.
Yeah.
I'm saying this to my sisters, like, and it's a balance, right? Because I feel like we struggle with feeling like we are unheard, as well. I think men sometimes feel like that because it's some of the thought is happy wife, happy life, but I don't agree with that per se. I think it's
Today.
happy mate life is great. So
Mhm.
everybody need to be happy. All right. And we need to be working on making each other happy.
Yeah.
But
And that's what a lot of men think they're doing by providing. Some men feel like they're paying for peace by only providing financially. It's like, well, I should have peace because I pay for everything. So for some men, there's no need for conversation. There's no need to, delve into emotional things. And I'm not saying they're thinking about this consciously, but subconsciously, that's how a lot of men think. Well, if I pay, I should have peace, and I shouldn't have to worry about anything else.
ooh, that's I don't know if y'all heard that. I don't know if y'all heard that, but I think that is more prevalent than we probably care to acknowledge. That men believe that because they are protecting and providing, that they should have peace. So don't ask me about all these other things. Don't come with me. Don't come to me with these questions about whatever. Woo! Yeah, that's real right there. That is so real. And we got all the questions. Let me tell you, the women folk, we got all the questions we wants to know. We have, and I'm gonna say this, and y'all might not like me, but we have a very high need for safety and security. We do as women. And if that need is not met, it's gonna be some problems. It is gonna be some problems.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So we are at the end of our conversation, although I feel like we could talk a little bit more. So that means you just gonna have to come back on, Mr. Ron. Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine.
All right. So I want to give you an opportunity to give some closing remarks and tell the people how they can connect with you.
Okay. So I just want to again thank you for allowing me on your platform. Anytime anyone invite me on their platform, I appreciate it because I know what work goes into it. So you can reach me at Therapy for Kings, and also I have an agency, perseverancecounseling.org. Again, that's perseverancecounseling.org. And that's way you can reach me online. That's more so for families and things and individuals and couples is Perseverance Counseling. But to follow me, I'm on social media at Therapy, the number 4 Kings. That's Therapy, the number 4 Kings.
All right, very good. Very good, very good. Well, I sure do appreciate you being on here. This was a great conversation, and I hope you viewers enjoyed it. If you did, let us know in the comments, please. Donna says some men fall back or off because we don't allow them to be men. Yes, which is what I was getting at with what I was saying, Donna. So thank you for saying it for me. Yes, some of them fall back or off because we don't allow them to be men, and I think that speaks to their not wanting to get into any any tussle, any argument with a woman. Like, I would rather fall back or off and let you be great, let you do you. Because again, I'm trying to get this piece over here. It's all anyway. I'm gonna leave that alone. Sonya B, great conversation. Thank you, Sonya. Quasi, African Americans were separated from our culture for 400 plus years. Additionally, we have a subculture in our community, influence of social media, etc. African on the continent do not. I think he was trying to say have these issues. Yes, I agree. I agree. We got to work with what we got, though. All right, Don, the awesome show tonight. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So, I definitely want to invite folks who are new to this platform to subscribe to the Conversations with Nicole YouTube channel. We are here Mondays and Wednesdays at 8:30 p.m. Focus on mental health and wellness in Black and Brown communities, specifically trying to encourage us to get our checkup from the neck up and be our best selves. Are you taking new clients at this time, Ron? Uh-oh. Did I lose you? Ron? Ron,
I'm here.
are you taking new clients at this
Yeah, I'm
time?
here.
Okay. Are you taking new clients?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, it broke up, Nicole. So yeah, so it'll be like I have openings in like 3 weeks.
Okay. All right. So you got some openings coming soon. Very good. All right. So reach out to Ron. All right. Therapy for Kings. He's in Atlanta. You serve all of Georgia.
I serve Georgia, Florida, and Arizona.
Okay, there you go. So folks in Florida, you can connect with Ron. All right. So a few more folks. Let's see, Sharice, this was really a great show and topic. Thank you so much. And my mom said, well needed conversation. Thank you, Mom. Appreciate it. All right, good people. Y'all have a great rest of the evening, a great rest of the week, and we will see y'all next time. Good night.